the Senate race is hugely important to the GOP. Do you think that this Trump phone call will damage their chances of keeping one or both seats in Georgia?
So those are pretty close races. The polls have really tightened. The betting markets have really tightened. And I think the theory that this would be bad for Republicans, that it has once again the president saying that there's something wrong with the voting in Georgia, that it is not a fair vote. And if you want to make the leap that people will think about that, and you do have some of this president's more extreme supporters saying, don't vote, reject the entire process. I doubt this is a positive for Republicans, what is looking to be a very close, and as Eamon just said, an enormously important election for 2021.
Yeah, in fact, I just looked right now, Jimmy, and yesterday, overnight, Joel Ossoff he is above David Perdue on the predicted betting market. Perdue had a sizable lead. Again, we're talking about the predicted market, so take it for what it's worth. It may not matter at all. But right now, we are seeing the Democrat getting a bid above David Perdue. If we get a Democratic sweep, there's a lot of implications. Taxes, capital gains, Section 230, infrastructure. But you've also got the countervailing weight of Joe Manchin, who's sort of effectively a Republican in some ways, Susan Collins. If the Democrats win both, how much do you think will really happen in Congress?
Right. Well, the Republicans should win. The biggest economic event of next year already happened. That's the stimulus. If the Democrats win, it's not like what people were talking about before the election, that Democrats were going to have such a majority that we were going to get Green New Deal, massive tax hikes. That's not going to happen with a narrow majority. You mentioned Manchin. You mentioned you also have the Arizona senators who come from a very close state. I think in that scenario, I think you still get tax hikes. You don't get the full Biden tax hike plan. You probably get higher income tax rates, a bump up of the corporate rate. Those Trump tax cuts don't get extended. So I think that's significant. It's not what some Democrats perhaps were dreaming about. You get more spending. You don't get like the full Green New Deal spending, but it's going to be a pretty significant difference versus a split government.
Yeah, it certainly will be there. And I think I said John Ossoff, obviously. I mean, this is going to be maybe the sea change I think the Democrats have been looking for. But at the same time, you've got the House, which is not getting a lot of attention. Let's not forget the House has the narrowest margin. The Democrats thought they were going to gain seats. They lost seats. And now you've got Pelosi, who was renamed Speaker of the House last night, is now having to deal with the smallest margin in the House, I believe, in almost or exactly 100 years. So should we all expect huge changes regardless of what happens in Georgia tomorrow? Or do you think this will be a rather centrist next couple of years?
Yeah, we often forget about the House. It's great that you mentioned this. This does not seem like the environment that you would expect, for just, this sort of radical change that, again, I think a lot of Democrats were really dreaming about when they thought they were going to have huge gains in the House, that they were going to have, a very sizable Senate majority. So I think you get sort of the original Biden light agenda, which isn't insignificant. It's the difference between tax increases and no tax increases. It's the difference between getting a second stimulus, maybe getting something closer to $1 trillion infrastructure plan, and not getting anything like that. I mean, those are still big differences. You have a lot more spending. You have somewhat higher taxes. Mm-hmm. But remember that markets were looking for something perhaps even more significant, and they seem to think that was just fine. They seem to like the $900 billion. So I think there might be some upsides that they seem to be focusing. They focused in the past a lot more on the potential stimulus versus the tax hikes. So I think it's sort of status quo to maybe something on the plus side.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.